Okay, so defensive guns. What is this about? So I kind of want to talk about how I got into shooting versus how I got into defending myself with guns and the difference therein. And then probably, I don't know where it'll go after that. But that's what this is about. So when I got into guns, I just like to shoot stuff. I still just like to shoot stuff. And, if I did not have to defend myself, I think the guns that I would own would be very, very different. Um, my 1911 would probably still have better sights on it, but it wouldn't have a light at all. It wouldn't have a Kydex holster at all. I would have a fucking tanker holster for it. That'd be the only thing I'd fucking own. You know, it's shit like that. Like, why have I morphed from, you know, owning the guns that I truly love and like to shoot to really having weapons for life? Well, the the thing that I encountered was the gun culture of America, really. Like when I was a kid, I grew up in this shit. And I met all parts of it. So like from a fairly early age, I was already bent towards, hey, we shoot stuff, so it's okay to shoot people in defense. I think that's pretty much where a lot of you are more than likely. And that's, pretty much still how I am. So like I don't know. Uh, the thing that I encountered in the gun culture though that made me go from like having an M1 Garand to having the best shit that money could buy at one point was the neo-Nazi shit. And I made the journey really from playing with M1 Garands and Mini 14s with my grandpa to, you know, running dual tube night vision that cost more than most of y'all's cars. I've owned Browning automatic rifles. I've owned Thompsons. I've owned several different cool flavors of M1 carbine. I've had every Vietnam era gun you can imagine. RPDs, M14s, SKSs, AK-47s, M16s, XM177 E2s. I never did the E1s because like it doesn't make sense to me. It's a whole different conversation. But I owned all of that shit along the way, and that's kind of why I think my take on defensive guns is not your normal person's. Like I think it's why I do different shit than a lot of y'all. And I also am an artist and I like to paint my shit. And now that I'm not, having history pieces, one of the things that I enjoy most about my current guns is the fact that I could fuck them up and paint them, you know? And like, I think that as a defensive gun, that has some advantages. For legality purposes in a courtroom, it probably isn't good. I wouldn't, advise you to do that. On the other hand, fuck them. I'll be judged for what I am. So I like modify my shit now. And as such, my journey from World War II to fucking 21st century and beyond in the world of guns, I picked up shit that I liked along the way. So, like, why do I have a fixed stock on my ARs? Is it because I love the fucking KE arms lower? Nope. I really enjoy fixed stock from the M16. That's my preference that I like. I like the KE arms lower and even the Cav arms lower before because it gave me the stock I liked at a lighter weight, and it seems to hold up. Like, I've ran several of these now. You can go back and look at my Cav Arms build before the KE Arms ones. I like these things. Okay, they shave a good pound off the gun, and they give me the stock that I prefer. That's why. Um, the red dot I use, the Holosun 403R, that was a very carefully selected red dot. It does everything that I want it to do, and it's like $150. And I've been using the one that's on this rifle I'm holding for several years now, and it's still going strong. I'm very happy with those optics. I don't see a reason to ever change that. So like some things are like, you know, someone asked me on Instagram, how poor are you? Because I put a communist emblem on the side of my gun. That's a complicated story, but like basically that that emblem being on the side of this gun has to do with my ex-girlfriend and some shit. That's just for me. So I'm kind of going to spin it into like a Wolverines thing, but she was a communist. That's why that's there. Flat out, this was my gun that I bought for her to defend herself with and when we were together. And now I'm kind of respinning it into my own personal defensive rifle. And I wanted something on there that was her. I'm probably going to add a Wolverines thing around it. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that yet. But like there's other shit that comes with this, like I like Lancer mags. Why do I like Lancer mags? I tried every other fucking magazine. I think the smoke translucent Lancer mag is the perfect mag for an AR-15. And that's kind of what we're looking at. I'm building here is I'm trying to maybe not build the perfect AR-15, but just build something that I like out of this, and then I'm going to do a video on it. And the entire motivation, again, behind this entire endeavor and study was to find and fucking marginally disrupt the Nazi bullshit that I see as a problem in the gun community. Like, if there are going to be Nazis with guns, I kind of figure, I look at a lot of this like I wanted to have the ability to defend myself. And I record a lot of this as a mixture of mixture of information and infotainment for y'all who also feel this way. Because in reality, like I've met so many fucking people at gun shows that would have rounded me up and put me in a camp. That's no joke. I've talked to them about it. I was in camouflage for a lot of years in a pair of overalls and a beard. I think that's why I take my defensive guns so fucking seriously. If you had someone look at my shit after I've gone through it and it's ready for fucking fight, you would find that most people who actually know what they're doing would be like, interesting. At least. If not, hey, I like that. My shit is not built for what they do. It's built for what I do. Okay? And like this is the thing that I'm doing with this gun is I see this as filling a particular niche role. As such, I'm going to do some odd things to it. Like it's going to get a 20-inch barrel, I think. I don't know. I'd go back and forth on that. I will be going back and forth on that for the next several months. So just get used to that. The reason I say that is I really, really like to put bayonets on guns, and a 16-inch barrel would uh, would make that a lot more. Would make it make a lot more sense because of the way the bayonets work. Also, I want to make sure that like whatever rail I get to replace this, uh, what's this called? Bear Creek. I have a Bear Creek rail on here now. I don't know that I'm going to replace this, but I suspect that I might. And if I do, then this is going to go on to a different gun probably. Or I might just buy the better rail for the different gun and keep the cheap ass piece of shit on this. That is tempting, believe it or not. I I'm planning with the leftover parts from upgrading this gun. The gun I'm holding is Moon Tiger, for those who are in the know. I'm planning on taking her leftover parts and building not a 14.5, but as close to that as I can get with a 16-inch barrel. I'll explain that. Carbine with an ultra compact stock. And what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to get a KE Arms 12-inch rail. They make one that's a lightweight thing for the CDR. I want to try that. And I'm going to put the barrel out of this carbine now. It's a 16-inch M4 gas system 1 and 8 barrel from Bear Creek. I'm going to put that in that upper, and we're going to FDE that whole gun and then do like a brown tiger stripe. And then for the muzzle device, Spikes makes a fake can that slips over the barrel. I'm going to do that and kind of make a little PDW thing that's as short as I can get it, basically, with this barrel. So it won't have a muzzle device, but I don't really care. I'm making something to be like a bag gun because I don't really know what else to do with this thing. And I like the LWRC Ultra Compact stock. And I looked, and they make that in FDE, and I kind of was. I don't have an FDE anything, and I kind of want to make a brown gun, so I'm going to do that. Making like the Sand Tiger out of the leftover parts, and that gun's going to kind of be half shit because it's built out of leftover parts. But yeah, we'll see how it is. Like if it is, if that barrel is shit, we'll just fucking replace it eventually. But I doubt it. I doubt it's total shit. I just don't want it on my like go-to rifle. The Sand Tiger rifle would be like a third string backup. That makes a lot more sense to have a Bear Creek barrel on to me. Uh, oh, other things. Uh, my love of a vertical grip came from the XM177. I carried around that gun quite a bit, and I always had a hasty field expedient vertical grip on it. And I don't even use it while I shoot. It's not good for that. It's while you're carrying and toting the gun, the vertical grip is nice. Like it's really nice. I would pretty much always have a vertical grip on an AR-15 for defensive purposes, and it has nothing to do with shooting. That's why you see me run it towards the back. I want the whole front end of the gun probably easy access. A little bit different on a hasty setup on a mid length. I have it a little bit more towards the front because that's where I want that on that gun. It's different when it's in a handguard versus a rail. The rail gives you so many more options to hold it with that it changes things. It changes the placement of some things slightly. Also, if you line up my guns, you'll find that the vertical grip is in almost the same position on every gun. Like it may be off by a half inch or so. It kind of depends on where it feels best on that gun. I I kind of think it's weird that there's a lot of the gun community that gives me shit for having defensive guns or doing some of the things that I do. Like, I don't know. It seems like most of what I do is pretty well reasoned and well thought out. And some of it is using some budget shit. And I guess the point of this whole channel really is okay, so we know we can't skimp out on X, Y, and Z. So, what can we skimp out on? And are any of the budget options actually any good? And if you're going to skimp out, where should you skip out and on what? And like, my advice for this point on defensive guns would be to buy a Palmetto State upper and whatever lower you want, probably a PSA one or a KE Arms one if you want that. And then upgrade that gun from there. Do what I'm doing to this Moon Tiger rifle. I'm going through this Bear Creek upper, and basically almost not a single part of it is going to be Bear Creek when I'm done. That's why I'm building another gun out of its wreckage. Okay. There's going to be that many parts just sitting in a box that I might as well build a second gun. And like, this is the nature of AR-15s, and I'm going to try to stop it here because I really don't need more than 3. I kind of like the idea of building a leftovers rat rod thing, and it'll be a host for a 9mm probably too. It'll have a cheap ass 5.56 upper and a probably pretty expensive 9mm upper. I want a gun that can go back and forth and do both. And I don't know, maybe the LWRC Ultra Compact stock isn't the right choice for that. I don't know. It's what I would want on the 9mm, so I guess I'm gonna figure it out. But I want a gun that I can. There's a adapter out there for SIG 320 mags for AR-15s. I forget who makes it, but it just pops in and out the bottom, and it has its own mag release and shit. So like, it's literally a thing that I could carry an upper and that and some mags in a bag and have 2 calibers in one gun. So Sand Tiger might play with that too. That makes me not want to paint it brown though. Maybe brown and green. I was thinking about doing the whole thing FDE and then doing brown tiger stripes over it. Maybe do the whole thing FDE and brown and then do green tiger stripes over the whole thing. It's like some parts of it could be FDE and some parts could be brown. I don't know. I go back and forth. Oh. The other thing I'm working on right now on both of these guns, I'm going to do Enforce lights with front, what do I call that? Front sight post ring. It's a ring that goes around the Enforce light that gives you a front post. That's going to be my backup sights on these guns. And for the rear sight, I'm going to buy another Chris Vector rear sight. I really like this thing. Uh, it doesn't lock up. I wish it locked up or even just had a more positive thing like the Magpul. But the thing I like about it is I can leave it on big aperture or small aperture and fold it. And it's clean and out of the way and whatever. The Magpul one, they always have that little bit that swings out. I don't like that. It's not. It's okay on my other rifle, but on this rifle, it's set up for kind of a night carbine, and I want the big hole aperture all the time. And to do that, basically, my choice is just to leave a little dangly bit on the Magpul hanging there, or to cut it the fuck off. So I don't like that. I got this sight from Hack Furnace, That's the Lord and Furnace from the chats. He gave me this set of sights because he just had them laying around. And I got to say that, like, the front sight sucks. I don't like the front sight. The rear sight is fucking awesome. Like, the rear sight, I'm going to buy another one of and put it on my other guns. I'm going to keep my Magpul Pro on Loki. I think that's the right sight for that rifle. These guns are kind of like red dots with magnifiers and fucking front sight post ring things. And, like, this is the perfect rear sight to go with that front sight post ring, in my opinion. It's not the perfect rear sight to go with a fucking metal front post. That would be the Magpul Pro, probably. For most situations, most people are going to want the Magpul Pro over the Chris Vector rear sight. I just happen to think that it gives me a couple of advantages that I like for the builds that I am doing. And, like, this is the real takeaway from any of my fucking videos is you shouldn't copy me, probably. You should, like, copy the way that I approach things. Like, this is a fucking shitty Bear Creek upper on a fucking KE Arms lower. And I'm going through it like this is the gun that I'm fucking going to war with. Because it is. So I'm going to go through it and replace all of the shit that needs to be replaced. And, like, this is something that you can do. You can go buy a fucking $400 AR at a gun show and go through it and fucking pour $2,000 into it. Almost anybody can do this. Okay, do it $50 at a time. It'll take a couple of years or whatever, but start now. That's, I'm talking about buying probably about $1,000 in parts over the next year, 2 years to just finish out Moon Tiger, much less build a Sand Tiger out of her wreckage. I don't know how much I'm gonna have to spend on that. I'm gonna find a fucking upper that I like. That'll be my first purchase on Sand Tiger, be an upper and a lower. I need to save some cash and go to a gun show and find uppers. I looked around online. Oh, uppers are in short supply. I think a lot of what we are seeing in the gun industry now, as far as AR-15 part shortage, is every fucking swinging dick in Europe wants an AR-15 now. All of them. That's interesting. I'm not talking about the civilians. Civilians want them for sure, but I'm talking about the government users and shit. All of Europe is basically a part of NATO for the most part, or if they aren't, they might as well be. It's one big happy European community. They use 5.56 to defend themselves. So no matter what gun they fucking have, they have fucking what's it? The XM 855. They have XM 855 out the ass, and they probably have fucking Stanag mags. What does that mean that they're going to want? What's the most cost-effective, best gun to buy? That's right, the AR-15s. And if they go on the internet to figure out what guns to get, they're going to find the same shit that you did to arrive here at me. Okay? They're going to arrive at people like Carl and Ian. Because really, they are the ones that have made content that, appeals to those Europeans. So you're going to see all of Europe carrying some sort of fucking what would Stoner do militarized fucking rifle. Like, I know that seems weird. All of the gun nerds in Europe watch a very few people. I know because I watch them all because I think those guys are cool. And they have various thoughts on guns, and that's going to show up in these countries' militaries, I swear to God. And one of those is the AR-15, because right now, countries like France and Luxembourg and fucking Italy and Spain, even and shit like that, are sitting there going, "Oh fuck, we've kind of let our military slide. At best, we have, a whole bunch of whatever we bought in the '80s, and what? That's all some of these countries have. Some of them have small special forces teams that have modern weapons. But like, go look at the militaries of the world and like look at our military for a second. We still have people carrying M16A2s in training and National Guard, whatever. We still have that. Okay. How much worse do you think that is in these European nations that never spend any money on their military? Like Sweden is upgrading G3s because they think they might need them. And I think they are 100% correct. They are going to need them. I think honestly, the G3 modernization program is something that should be done in every fucking country in Europe. The G3 is a good rifle. It works and it shoots a round that they have plenty of. If nothing else, you can give a fucking G3 and 3 mags to a dude who's fucking guarding some supply depot and it frees up a fucking real gun. Like that is what that guy needs, The dude guarding the fucking supply depot, he needs a G3 and 2 extra mags. Like that's a lot of fight, really. That's at least probably 30 or 40 people that he could shoot. How many people you really think are going to attack a fucking thing out in the middle of nowhere? And it's not just him, it's him and his like 80 other dudes that are fucking guarding some other shit in that area. That's why those guns make sense. The other reason they make sense is what happens when Russia shows up wearing body armor, which they're going to do. Like, in reality, they need 308 armor piercing. No one has any guns that shoots that shit, and that's why SIG with that MCX Spear is going to make so much fucking money. The US Army just adopted it, and that's all of these European nations are going to have to hear. And especially since it can shoot some new whiz bang AP ammo and cheaper training ammo. For their list of concerns, they're going to buy that fucking MCX Spear. It's interesting to see, part shortages here because Europe's going to war. And like I was looking for an M16A1 upper or a C7 upper. I can't find one. I can't find one because all the old ones have been bought up long ago. So we were relying on new made ones. And all of the people that were making those stopped making those in favor of making war material, it seems. Now, whether that's because the market went that way, but what caused the market to go that way? There was this brief flirtation with retro shit, and it just kind of went away. And my thing is like they should keep making carry handle uppers to some extent. Like I want to use one on a defensive gun. I know that seems weird or whatever, but like look at what people are doing with those Unity tactical mounts that make your red dot go 80 miles high. You can do the same thing by having a carry handle upper and putting a fucking adapter on it. And it's a very interesting, like, fuck you kind of look to those people. And I want a gun like that. That's what I was wanting to do with Sand Tiger. And if I can find that, we might still do that. But, like, I looked around and it doesn't exist. That's one of those things that makes me think, oh shit, every milling machine in the US that can churn out military AR parts is turning out military AR parts. Why is that? Well, between civilian sales here in the United States of people who think that like shit's gonna get bad, And the sales of shit in Europe to these government entities, I guarantee you, are just loading up on this shit. The military industrial complex is making so much fucking money right now, it's not even funny. That's like a lot of these European nations ordered F-35s. Every F-35 that we can make for the next 20 years is allocated. I think we might need to open up more production lines. That's the shit that makes me think that my parts not being in stock is related to this war shit, especially with all the stuff going to Ukraine or whatever. A AR-15 upper in the Ukraine is probably worth quite a bit of money right now. It's not what you have, it's where you have it in this case. And if you really wanted to make some money right now, getting a fucking C-130 and loading it full of guns in America and flying it to fucking Ukraine, you could make so much fucking money. They're being paid to go to war by the US government. Okay? If you just show up with a fucking plane full of guns there, you need to know who to go to and where to go and some of that kind of shit. But you're selling to the Ukrainian government and you're getting paid in US money straight from a US bank account. More than likely. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Uh, they could be doing bags of cash again. In Iraq, they would pay in fucking duffel bags of cash. Like, you remember that Saddam had that huge fucking palace of fucking money that he printed with legit plates? They were paying people out of that shit. We just walked up with a fucking duffel bag and you filled it full of whatever it was that your pay was, and then you walked off. That was literally how some people were getting paid in Iraq. Like, god damn, I wish I could get to Ukraine. I don't wish I could get to Ukraine like this. I need like a C-130 full of fucking AKs and shit. But really M4s. If I could have a C-130 full of M4s 5.56 armor, helmets, what else? Anything and everything that is associated military equipment to go with that. Like, if I could have a plane full of equipment to equip 1,000 dudes and just show up there with that, they would buy that shit. And then they would be like, "Can you do it again?" That's the nature of these things. Like, they don't give a fuck about how it got there. So, like, if you're an enterprising young lad and you have access to the shit that I'm talking about, it's not a bad way to make some money. You will probably get shot at if the Russians see you. So there's that. Watch out for that. I don't know. I think before too long we're going to have our own problems here, and that's kind of why I'm like, I don't know what to do, really. And as a result, I'm not sitting here doing nothing, but I'm talking to you guys, and I'm preparing and I'm projecting on my guns, and I'm enjoying life. That's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what is left of the normal world. I don't think that I'm going to be able to enjoy much longer. It looks increasingly more like the world is going to war, and I'm hoping that that is a European war and it's non-nuclear. But I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be global. My guess is we're going to see shit pop off in Taiwan, right? As Taiwan and Ukraine. Whenever that happens, the U.S. is going to get involved with this Taiwan shit. And more than likely, we're going to up our presence in Ukraine to actual boots on the ground. Because in our minds, China and Russia are allies. You know, like it's like I don't know. I I I hope we're not stupid enough to get involved more in Ukraine while starting shit in Taiwan, but I know we are. And the thing about this is once that's all in play, Iran and Israel is gonna pop off. And like basically the entire Middle East is gonna fucking go at Israel all at once. Complicated reasoning for that, but I think there's enough people that don't like Israel between Iran and Israel that once Iran starts attacking Israel, that most of the rest of them are going to join in. And like Israel can defend herself, so that's not really that big of a deal. Of all of these, it's the one that I would be least worried about. However, like this is some like apocalyptic end of the world shit. And then not to mention the fact that like we have been fighting a war in Africa against the Chinese for several decades now. It's an interesting kind of colonial conflict. I don't know if you guys are really that hip on Africa's history or what's happened there, but to sum up, they got fucked, and then they got fucked again, and they're continuing to get fucked. And currently, some African nations are accepting aid and help from America, and some nations are accepting aid and help from China. And in exchange for this aid and help, they're giving away all of their natural resources and many, many other things. Like the Chinese have a market for their goods. That's what they see in Africa. The U.S. doesn't like China having a market that's not the U.S., so we try to stomp that shit out. And that's the pissing match we've had in Africa now for like 20 fucking years. So, we want the Africans to buy shit from us, and they want the Africans to buy shit from them. Basically, it's like we're the Ferengi. We're the Ferengi fighting over Africa. India has kind of had a similar history and has just wised up. Basically, India is starting to make a lot of their own shit internally, which they should. That's, China does what they do because they have this giant uneducated population of slaves. India is not much better. India is a powerhouse if they wanted to be. And it looks like they're aligning with China now, which really doesn't make much sense, other than the fact that they want to exist. And I think that they think that the U.S. is going down. And, maybe they're right. I think there's a very good chance that in their sphere of the world, they are right. I think our ability to project power in this hemisphere, the Americas, is so fucking high that no one on earth could ever fucking touch us. But at the same time, our ability to project power in Asia is now greatly diminished. And the thing that did that was our withdrawal from Afghanistan and a few other key places, really. But like the map at this point is not looking good for us. And the real concern to me is the same game that's happening in Africa, it's happening in Central and South America too. And it won't take much for a lot of those people to, uh, join the Chinese. Fucking cat. I know you want to sit with me. Church came up and like jumped all in my business. He wants to like sit on my shoulder and rub his face into the chair. And you can pick one or the other. I know you're itchy. Oh, poor fucker. He got fleas about a month ago, and the flea medication doesn't work that good, does it, buddy? If you know a good flea medication for cats, let me know. I'm using like knockoff Frontline, and I wasn't sure when I gave it to him, and I wanted to be safe and not give it to him too close together. I think I waited too long. He's kind of a hoe while he has fleas, though. He figured out that I scratch better than him, basically, because like I keep my nails fairly short, and um, I was basically raised by a cat that had fleas. It wasn't I. My cat Moose had fleas the entire time I was growing up, and it was him and I against the world for the most part. But it's kind of made this little guy to where he follows me around screaming now if I'm not scratching his chin. I don't blame you. It's itchy. Well, I guess this isn't about defensive guns now. We could get back to that though. Uh, I don't know. I like my current kind of thoughts on guns, which is basically that they are tools for putting bullets into other human beings. That's what they do. As such, like my shit's kind of like samurai swords. Like it doesn't have to make sense to you. It's mine. Like the whole 20-inch barrel thing. The uh, the thought there is basically that I don't know what ammunition I'm going to be running. So when in doubt, 20-inch and as high of a twist rate as possible. Isn't that right, buddy? Maybe a 1 in 8. Does it need a 1 in 8? Are you just so itchy? He is really itchy. Scratching his noggin now. He just melts. It's like pure love. I think he knows that like I'm only doing it because he needs it. Anyway, uh, the camo paint jobs, I think, are probably, if anything, a negative for a defensive gun. But I like them, and I wouldn't have a defensive gun that I didn't paint. And it's not courtroom or anything like that. I dig the look that they have. Okay, now as far as painting symbols on them and shit, that's where like most people would be like, the attorneys say that blah 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 blah. Like, I don't give a fuck about what attorneys say. And the reason is, I live in Oklahoma. Give me a jury of my peers, and then give me the stand. I can make my point quite eloquently, and the explanation for any of the things that I fucking paint on my rifle is that I'm like a samurai for good. So try to fight that shit. Like everything on my rifle is kind of a tribute to John Milius in one way or another, except for maybe the titties. Like I got the Wheel of Pain, that's from Conan. I've got the hammer and sickle on the other side, and the whole color scheme of the paint job is kind of a Red Dawn thing. It looks a little bit like the Russian camo from Red Dawn. Then the Mandalorian skull, like, there's nothing more John Milius than the Mandalorian. Like, I swear to God, that show is like a love letter to that dude. And part of it's because he watched so much Sergio Leone and shit, and George Lucas and John Milius watched so much of the same shit that he made several of the same conclusions. And like, my guess is that John Favreau watched Red Dawn. That would be my guess, and that's half of why I love the Mandalorian. Also, the Mandalorians were always my favorite part of Star Wars. Like I remember getting nerdy about Mandalorians in high school with my buddy Tim. Like, and all we knew was Jango Fett. Like, I fell in love with Jango Fett from the moment I saw Jango Fett. Like, I already liked Boba Fett, and in my opinion, they made his dad even more badass. I love the fucking like cowboy pistol thing he's got going on. Like everything about it, perfect. And all of the Mandalorian shit that came out in the wake of episodes 2 and 3 heavily influenced me. And I think that's, a lot of the nerdier Star Wars people were into that. And like, there's this whole mythos to draw on. And you can set it at any point in the Star Wars universe, really. It's great. Not to mention, the original Star Wars was kind of a spaghetti western in space. You know, that's what this is. It's a spaghetti western in space. It's kind of back to its roots. I like that. Anyway, that's why the Mandalorian shit on the rifle. It's, in my opinion, kind of directly connected with all the rest of that shit from its like DNA. Other shit that I'm gonna put on this rifle is like I'm gonna do a Boba Fett crest, the Jester Mariel crest on the other side. I don't know what else I'm going to do over there. I'm thinking about putting some Japanese kanji on here. Like, I kind of want to put "Made in Japan" on it somewhere in Japanese. I think that'd be funny. The other thing I was thinking about putting is the kanji for katana. I might do both. Might do, "Made in Japan" on one side and katana on the other. And I'm going to put an Eye of Sauron on the side with the communist star. Maybe do a couple other things. I don't know what else. I have notes on things that I think up to do to this rifle while high, and then I marinate on it for a few days. Some of it I just think about for a while, like the Wheel of Pain. I knew I was going to put on it somewhere, and I knew I was going to put something where the Wheel of Pain ended up, but I wasn't sure where that was going to go. And that's kind of like how I paint these guns. They're like a sculpture. I like to live with them and slowly add things, slowly modify them. I guess that's really what my guns are to me. They aren't really guns. They are art pieces. They are sculptures. You know, they are the Mona Lisa that kills people. Flat out. I like that. I know a lot of people would be like, you know, your painting is nowhere near the fucking Mona Lisa. Well, thank you, but I all my shit looks exactly the way I want it to look. Like you've never seen me try to paint a Rembrandt. I have some shit that I've done that you would be impressed by that I've either pencil drawn or painted. Um, anyway, a lot of the stuff that's on here right now that I did by hand, I wanted to have kind of a tribal look to it. That's this gun. Hopefully, when I get done, is gonna look like some shit out of Farewell to the King or Apocalypse Now. Like that's the ultimate tribute, I think, to John Milius is that I'm building a gun that is made to fight in the modern era, and it kind of even has a sci-fi vibe to it. But yet, it's a fucking like it's the rifle of a rebel cult leader. It's this gun is John Milius. Like in a way, I would love to finish this up and then mail this to him. But he's old as fuck and has had a stroke, and I think basically they only let him shoot shotguns for fun now. It's kind of sad. I would love for him to fucking see this, hold this, shoot this, and at least get 5 minutes to tell him about why some of this shit's on there. And like, it's one thing, to like Star Wars and put that on your gun. It's another thing to like the body of work of one person and to like dedicate your rifle to them. That's kind of what this is. Like the color scheme made me think of Red Dawn. And then I went looking for a color to put the hammer and sickle on with and ended up coming up with Kona Brown, which I had used to make fake Bakelite at one point. It's a good color. And I used it to do the Wheel of Pain and the dots. You can see pictures of all of this on Instagram, by the way. I I dig it. We're not done yet. I'm gonna add some more colors to it probably too before it's done. I've got Rhodesian baby poop over there, and I'm gonna use it for some like tiny details. I think the Eye of Sauron. I'm gonna take a Japanese flag, the rising sun. Oh, there's a decal for it, and modify it into an Eye of Sauron. I think I have no exact idea or plan of how I'm going to do that yet, but I kind of have a thing in my head a little bit I can see, and we're just gonna go with it. That's half of like the way that I do anything, really. Like, there's two options. Either I planned it to death, or I ended up deciding that the best plan was to have no plan and just jumped in. And I've done that many, many times on projects. It ends to fun, creative shit. Um, I've only ever made one other nerd rifle, really. I just put some Boba Fett shit on an AR-15. I did that kind of figuring, most other people probably like that too. This rifle is very much, I don't know if everyone would like this. It's art. It's I like it. My buddy Blazer loves it, but like for some reason, I guess the art that I make, if anything, speaks to Blazer's soul. I don't know if it does to anyone else's. I'm guessing that there's quite a few of you that feel, somewhat like this. Because I do have people that actually fucking watch my shit, believe it or not. Most of my fucking videos, I've looked back, have about 40 to 50 people watching them. And like, that's pretty cool. Like, especially if you make it to this part of the video, like, I think that's really dope. Thanks for watching. This has kind of been rambly, and this is what happens when I, you know, get up in the morning and really don't know what to talk about, but want to talk about something. I think defensive guns is a good topic. It deserves better than me rambling high about it, really. But in general, I like having a red dot and a light. In general, I like 5.56 because of weight reasons. And in general, I like a fixed stock. Also, barrel length matters somewhat. Um, you should pick a gun with the barrel length for what it is you're wanting to do. And if you're going to be in open battle, you know, longer barrel's probably better. If you're going to be in a car, like the longer barrel is a detriment, right? With the current ATF bullshit going on, I think the safe bet to go with is 16 inches or longer. That's where I'm keeping most of my guns. Like I have that Flux Raider, but I'm serious, it's going to be a handgun. My goal is to stay out of the Democrat death camps as long as possible and continue to broadcast my pirate radio message. And I can kind of defend myself with whatever. I can't wait someday if I do have to sell this gun ever. It's gonna be fucking hilarious. I'm gonna have to like take it to a pawn shop and be like, how much? It does have titties painted on the side of it, so they might pay extra for that. See you guys later. Thanks for watching, especially if you make it this far in, man. Like, I I hope I make better videos than this, but I don't know. I think this was interesting. Tell me what you think.